Okay. We're going to share. Okay, do you have it pulled up? I do. It's on Zoom. Yeah, right there. I mean, on you know what I'm saying. You found it. So, morning chanting, page 7. To the blessed and noble one, who fully attained perfect enlightenment, to the teaching which he expounded so well, and to the blessed one's disciples who have practiced well, to these the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha, we render with offerings our rightful homage. It is well for us that the Blessed One, having attained liberation, still had compassion for later generations. May these simple offerings be accepted for our long-lasting benefit and for the happiness it gives us. The noble, the perfectly enlightened and blessed one, I render homage to the Buddha, the Blessed One. The teachings so completely explained by him, I bow to the Dhamma. The Blessed One's disciples who have practiced well, I bow to the Sangha. Now let us pay preliminary homage to the Buddha. Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one. Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one. Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one. Now let us chant in praise of the Buddha. The Tathagata is the pure one, the perfectly enlightened one. He is impeccable in conduct and understanding, the accomplished one, the knower of the worlds. He trains perfectly those who wish to be trained. He is teacher of devas and humans. He is awake and holy. In this world with its devas, demons, and kind spirits, its seekers and sages, celestial and human beings, he has by deep insight revealed the truth. He has pointed out the Dhamma, beautiful in the beginning, beautiful in the middle, beautiful in the end. He has explained the spiritual life of complete purity in its essence and conventions. I chant my praise to the Blessed One. I bow my head to the Blessed One. Now let us chant in praise of the Dhamma. The Dhamma is well expounded by the Blessed One, apparent here and now, timeless, encouraging investigation, leading in words, to be experienced individually by the wise. I chant my praise to this teaching. I bow my head to this truth. Now let us chant in praise of the Sangha. They are the Blessed One's disciples who have practiced well, who have practiced directly, who have practiced insightfully, those who practice with integrity. That is the 4 pairs, the 8 kinds of noble beings. These are the Blessed One's disciples. Such ones are worthy of gifts, worthy of hospitality, worthy of offerings, worthy of respect. They give occasion for incomparable goodness to arise in the world. I chant my praise to the Sangha. I bow my head to the Sangha.
Now let us chant our salutation to the triple gem and a passage to arouse urgency. The Buddha, absolutely pure, with ocean-like compassion, possessing the clear sight of wisdom, destroyer of worldly self-corruption, devotedly indeed, that Buddha I revere. The teaching of the Lord like a lamp, illuminating the path and its fruit, the deathless, that which is beyond the conditioned world. Devotedly indeed, that Dhamma I revere. The Sangha, the most fertile ground for cultivation. Those who have realized peace, awakened after the accomplished one. Noble and wise, all longing abandoned. Devotedly indeed, that Sangha I revere. This salutation should be made to that which is worthy. Through the power of such good action, may all obstacles disappear. One who knows things as they are has come into this world, and he is an arahant, a perfectly awakened being, purifying the way leading out of delusion, calming and directing to perfect peace, and leading to enlightenment. This way he has made known. Having heard the teaching, we know this. Birth is dukkha, aging is dukkha, and death is dukkha. Sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair are dukkha. Association with the disliked is dukkha. Separation from the liked is dukkha. Not attaining one's wishes is dukkha. In brief, the five focuses of the grasping mind are dukkha. These are as follows: identification with the body, identification with feeling, identification with perception, identification with mental formations, identification with consciousness. For the complete understanding of this, the Blessed One in his lifetime frequently instructed his disciples in just this way. In addition, he further instructed, the body is impermanent, feeling is impermanent, perception is impermanent, mental formations are impermanent, consciousness is impermanent, the body is not self, feeling is not self, perception is not self, mental formations are not self, consciousness is not self, all conditions are impermanent. There is no self in the created or the uncreated. All of us are bound by birth, aging, and death, by sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair, bound by dukkha and obstructed by dukkha. Let us all aspire to complete freedom from suffering. The Blessed One, who long ago attained Parinibbana, is our refuge. So too are the Dhamma and the Sangha. Attentively we follow the pathway of that Blessed One, with all of our mindfulness and strength. May then the cultivation of this practice lead us to the end of every kind of suffering.
it's wonderful to have Nisabho, Ajahn Nisabho, and Ajahn Kovilo with us. We're so happy that you're here. And we also have Ajahn Nisabho's parents, Doug and Sarah, and Alan and Kay, and Jeremy and Lewis here, and from the Clear Mountain community. And we've been everybody's been working really hard building a kuti, and it's been a lot of fun. And it's really come along. It's in great shape. Tonight we're going to talk about two sentences that the Buddha used that are part of the chanting we did earlier. That all conditioned things are impermanent and all things are not self. And sometimes that's described as all conditioned and unconditioned. There's no self in the conditioned or the unconditioned. Is the way it's translated in our chanting. So each of us are going to talk a little bit. We've looked up suttas in the Nikaya, in the Sutta Pitaka, that include these sentences. And so we have a few suttas picked out that we want to refer to. We'll see how much we actually covered, but the main thing I think is to get at, what does this mean and how do we practice with it? And how does it lead us to enlightenment? So I think I'll see if each of us will say a few words, and we'll invite questions and comments and discussion along the way. And I think I want to look at the one in the Anguttara Nikaya. I don't know that I can read the screen, but can you share it, Ayya? Yeah, maybe I can read it on the screen. So because it's so short, I am going to read it, and that's probably about all I'll say. Mendicants, whether a realized one, so whether Buddhas arise or not, this law of nature persists. The regularity of natural principles, so the Dhamma. I can't read it from here. Why don't you read it, Ayya?
Get you in. Whether or not one
I think bring my laptop
nice ones
first.
arise.
Shall I just use the Bodhi translation? Okay. Whether Tathagatas arise or not, there persists the law, the stableness of the Dhamma, that fixed course of the Dhamma. All conditioned things are impermanent. A Tathagata awakens to this and breaks through to it. Then he explains it, teaches it, proclaims it, establishes it, discloses it, analyzes it, and elucidates it thus. All conditioned things or phenomena are impermanent. Whether Tathagatas arise or not, there persists this law, that stableness of the Dhamma, that fixed course of the Dhamma. All conditioned phenomena are suffering. A Tathagata awakens to this and breaks through to it, and then he explains it, teaches it, proclaims it, establishes it, discloses it, analyzes it, and elucidates it. Thus, all conditioned phenomena are suffering. And whether Tathagatas arise or not, there persists that law, that stableness of the Dhamma, that fixed course of the Dhamma. All phenomena are non-self. A Tathagata awakens to this and breaks through to it, and then he explains it, teaches it, proclaims it, establishes it, discloses it, analyzes it, and elucidates it. All phenomena are not self. So the main distinction there is that for the first two, the Buddha talks about all conditioned phenomena. So all sankharas, all things that are based on the pulling together of other substances, they all are impermanent and suffering because they naturally fall apart. We can't stop it. That's just its nature. But then for the last one, he's not just talking about conditioned things, he's talking about everything, including the unconditioned, including nibbana. So I find it really inspiring to think that, whether there's a Buddha in the world or not, whether anyone sees this truth or not, it's reality. And of course, we can't just take that on and believe it because we're told that it's that way, but it's what we can investigate and really look into for ourselves. The Tathagata awakens to it, but we also awaken to it. And I just, as I was reading these suttas, picking them out, it kind of makes me so excited that it's like, oh, it's just like, it's really, I think it's thrilling. I hope you do too. So I want to turn it over to, who's next?
And jump in.
Sure.
And does anybody have any comments on that?
Oh yeah, any
Upada Sutta? Right afterwards, but I'm happy to go around first. So this thread that we have been looking at, the Sabbe Sankara Anicca, Sabbe Dhamma Anattati. The next sutta we'll look at is in the Samyutta Nikaya, this beautiful light blue edition of the Wisdom Publication English version by Bhikkhu Bodhi translation. And it's the Chana Sutta, Samyutta 22, the Khanda Samyutta, verse or sutta number 90. Yeah. And I'll be just giving a bit of a summary of the sutta. So some people might know, but some people might not know, is that Chana was the Buddha's charioteer. So he appears in a number of suttas and in the Vinaya. So in the monastic rules, he's the originator behind several of the monks' rules as being, he's like this stubborn presence, like throughout this stubborn thread of someone who just can't really take feedback very well. He's like the original toxic masculinity guy. So basically you try to give him feedback and he's like, you're trying to give me feedback? I was the Buddha's charioteer. So it said on the night of the Buddha's awakening, the charioteer Chana left the palace, actually, the story goes. And then he ends up going back. But this is his thread. He knew the Buddha since before he was actually the Buddha. So has a lot of self. And because he's so hard to admonish, so hard to speak to, the Buddha actually administers this almost singular punishment upon him after many times of trying to give him feedback. He gives him the Brahma Danda, which is like the Brahma stick, like the God hammer, which is basically, it's not physical. There's no corporal punishment in Buddhism. But what this is no one should talk to Chana. And that is a supreme punishment because this is how we learn, is from listening to one another. So he receives this and basically he's a bit cut off. He's ostracized from the community. And we find in this sutta, Chana is going around and he's realizing that he's not enlightened. And he thinks, who can I go to get some teaching? And he does actually find some senior monks who give him, who are willing to go on a limb and give him some teachings. And the teaching they give him are exactly what we chanted this evening. The form is impermanent, feeling is impermanent, perception is impermanent, mental formation, consciousness are impermanent. Form is not self. So basically the five aggregates, feeling, perception, mental formations, consciousness are not self. All of these are not self. All conditioned things are impermanent. All dhammas are not self. All dhammas are not self, the exact same. And Chana, he hears this and then he goes back and we kind of get a window into his mind in this sutta. And he thinks, yeah, I knew that. I knew that already. Yeah, all these things are impermanent. All these things are not self.
but I'm still attached. There's still this clinging, still this attachment. I haven't yet realized the remainderless fading away in cessation, renunciation, relinquishment, release, and letting go of all conditioned things. So what should I do? So he hears this teaching, a very lofty teaching that is the focus of our conversation tonight, that all conditioned things are, all dhammas are not self, but it doesn't actually hit home for him in this moment. He's got too much self, actually. So he thinks, what can I do? And he remembers Ananda. So the Buddha's attendant, this very, honestly, very sweet monk who basically everybody loves him. The bhikkhunis love him. The bhikkhus love him. The lay people love him. Everybody loves very sweet Ananda. So he goes to Ananda, and Ananda actually is willing to speak to him as well. And he says, Channa, I hope that your heart is no longer as hard, and I hope your mind is no longer as tight as it used to be. I think you can hear the teaching. And just in that moment, hearing that Ananda, who he has faith in, he's got faith in Channa. Channa has faith in Ananda. And just from hearing Ananda say that, okay, I've got faith in you enough, Channa, that you can do this. Piti pamoja as a compound word, delight and well-being, this pamoja. So anybody who's in the class, the Upasaka group, we're studying the well-being cascade, this pamoja cascade. And here we have a 1-2 punch of piti and pamoja, of rapture or joy and pleasure and well-being all come up. And that is really what allows him to be able to hear this teaching. And Ananda gives a teaching which is basically a stock teaching, which we find in many other suttas, dependent origination. Ignorance leads to conditioned formations, etc., all the way down through the 12 links. And it's a teaching which Channa almost certainly would have heard, and all of us have heard many, many times. But I think the key to the teaching, how it can actually go into his heart. He is very hard-hearted. The word is kila. Ananda says, I hope your heart is no longer kila, no longer barren, no longer hard. I hope you actually have an opening into your heart. And just that much coming from a friend in Dhamma, there's this softening, and this piti pamoja, joy and well-being, can actually arise. And that's the water of the heart, which allows the teaching. And it is just a normal teaching. We've heard it normal for us in that it's, kind of stock phrases, but it goes home for Channa, and he's able to actually realize the Dhamma. So I think that's fascinating, that the key ingredient is not actually he heard the loftiest teaching, all Dhammas are not self, but really what he needed is a friend, and he needs this sense of well-being to come up. So I hope all of us can kind of feel that softness, because it is this kila of the heart, also translated as barrenness, cheto kila, Majjhima number 17 or 18, the barrenness of the heart, the non-wateredness of the heart, the aridity of the heart, which disallows us, which prohibits or inhibits our capacity from hearing the Dhamma, that all Dhammas are not self. A very three-dimensional teaching. So that's what I want to point to, and would love it. I think it's possible that Ayya Cittananda or Ayya Ajahn Nisabho might speak about the same sutta, but we'd invite either one of you. Ayya? I can't jump in, but only.
Yeah, I think it's fine.
Okay.
So, thanks.
Yeah, no, that was lovely. And I as well. No, that's a big book. No, I think you gave the rundown. These books, by the way, people should get them. They are large but amazing. I think
Mayor's got her hand up. Should we ask her?
yeah,
first
please,
before
please, that'd be
we go?
great. Yeah.
It's not a interaction. It's more like practical. Can you stop sharing the screen so I can't see you guys talking because you're way in the
Oh,
back?
okay.
Yes,
Okay,
thank you.
great.
I'd
Thank
love
you.
that.
And I won't be referencing text as much, so that's okay.
Yeah, just quickly to dovetail off of what Ajahn Kovilo said, the fact that what opens Chana up to hearing the teaching is of not self is his conception of self as kind of an unteachable, hard-hearted exile being ungrounded by Venerable Nanda, just showing him softness, and like suddenly his conception of self falls away and he, the Cetokila, the barrenness of the heart is softened. And similarly in the uh Vachagota Sutta, is that the other one we had? No, Satchika, with
Satchika.
Majjhima Nikaya 35, which is another one of the suttas I sent. He Satchika basically he's a debater. He's, brags to the whole city that he's going to be you know, throw the Buddha around like an elephant would play the hemp washing game in a pond, or, basically uh, you know, beat the Buddha in debate. And then, of course, the Buddha, and basically the ground that the debate um, rests on is Sachika asserting that since these aggregates of identity, the body, feeling, perception, sankhara, which in this case is volitional formations, and consciousness, are the ground of karma, that these are self. And the Buddha just gives this brilliant simile where he says, look, Sachika, if you were a king, would you have the ability in your kingdom to determine what the taxes were and who was exiled? And Venerable Sachika says, yes, and that would be your kingdom, right? And he says, yes. And the Buddha says, do you have the ability to say to this body, do this, don't be sick? And Venerable Sachika doesn't respond. And then the Buddha asks three times, and if you don't answer three times, then your head explodes. So by the third time, so it goes in the suttas at least. So after being asked three times, basically, Sachika answers and he says, no, actually, I don't have the ability to tell my body what to do. And that is the essence of not self. People get so, what does anatta mean exactly? And that simile really has always stuck with me. It's just such a simple illustration and so practical. Like when your body's sick, sometimes it just doesn't move like you want it to move. And just that simple fact, or how the mind doesn't not only do we not have our own thoughts, you don't know what you're going to be thinking tomorrow, let alone, or or even the next minute or even the next second. It's not your own, it's not even your own radio that you're listening to, it's a neighbor's radio. And just that is a very practical way of working with not self. And linking it to control is so interesting too, because in the sutta that Ayya read, where the Buddha is saying whether or not a Tathagata arises in the world or doesn't, this persistent natural law, the thusness of or Dhamma Titata, Dhamma Niyamata, Itapachayata, that conditionality, which is like how conditions combine to create the next moment. Like just that simple law of anicca. Um, and if we're not controlling everything, there's another sutta where the Buddha says, one who hopes to strengthen the perception of not self should focus on impermanence. And one contemplating impermanence, the perception of not self is made steady, and such a one attains unbinding. So the more you see that things are arising and passing in line with just conditions, natural law, the more that sense of self and control is let go of. And the more you come to just see natural law unfolding. And it's interesting because if you just think of that from a conceptual level, you'll see like certain moments in the suttas where the Buddha is sort of pointing to the dissolution of all these concepts, like in the Mahakachana or Kachana Gota Sutta, which is referenced in the Ananda Sutta, like stepping back from all concepts. And you could see it as like if you're not controlling things, then if you let go of all concept, then what's left is just this void. but for me, what the Buddha is pointing to is like actually when you let go of all those concepts, what you come to is something actually profoundly stable when you realize natural law. And just even the word tathagata, it's like almost so grounded in its onomatopoeic, like the drum of the deathless, ta ta ta. And when the Buddha's talking about like this, that conditionality, it's just like, and I think that's just a very, this all sounds very conceptual, but it's just so intuitive. Like after a time, you just learn to tune yourself to Dhamma, and that's how you navigate your life when you stop trying to control everything and surrender. I mean, you still take action, but you just get a sense of how to tune to the moment and to natural law, and for me, that's intimately related to not self. And it's not a blank nothingness. It's like the Buddha talks about, living in line with Dhamma and in tune with Dhamma and harmony with Dhamma. So, yeah, and all Dhammas are not self. And for me, yeah, the Buddha there is pointing to the fact that Nibbana itself might, you can't say that it's self either necessarily. And it is interesting that he doesn't say Nibbana is the opposite of anicca. He doesn't say it's Nietzsche. He says it's amata, unborn, unconstructed, undying. It's beyond time. So it's interesting. We're like playing around here in a place that's beyond words. But I like how the Satchika Sutta just brings it down to very practical. Like you can't control it. It's not yours. And that's enough. So yeah. And I had never seen that bit in the sutta where the piti arises in jhana. That's really cool. Just the power friendliness. So
P.T. Pamoja.
yeah. What you call it, the 1-2 punch of
Yeah.
yeah.
Power compound.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so I like the practical too. Like, how do we see this for ourselves? And, you know, they all had coffee. I had no coffee. And they all had time to dig in, to prepare, and I had no time. So here we are, and I can like decide to identify with, oh, I'm a terrible teacher and I suck, and this is gonna go terribly, and it's all about me. Or I could decide to be like, hey, causes and conditions. Okay, see the Dhamma. Okay, we're good, moving on. So yeah. I really also love all the similes and enjoy the practicality and the encouragement to reflect on in our own lives how this applies like all the time. And the causes and conditions that lead to something and the cause and effect nature of reality is so, like you said, Ajahn, both easy to see practically and also like super profound, and being able to really reach that. Um, I think of course, it takes a whole eightfold path, but there's like something to just reflecting over and over and looking for it in our lives all the time, trying to find the places where we're still hung up on this, identifying with things as me or mine, or anything more than it is like lifetimes of conditioning that we have to let go of, really, and not believe this lie that, I'm doing certain things is gonna make me safe or comfortable or somehow make me feel good in some way and ultimately bring me happiness that we chase so much all the time. And why? Why? Stop it. Okay. Emma. Go.
Can I actually jump in there really quick?
Sure.
I said, like, you're pointing to it's relevant because we're two pairs of monastics each, living together and in a couple somewhat. And I think you joked that we were the mirror image of the bhikkhu versions of you two or something. And just that act of like it is a constant practice and not self. Like Ajahn Viradhammo has said, humility is a love of reality. And Ajahn Kovilo and I find that if we're both trying to be like, it's just painful. But if we both, if you want to go high and you just go low and we like prop up each other, then it's like two reeds like supporting each other. And yeah, it's just such another, what you said was very good, like having to let go of that identity and just being like humble. It's that simple, I guess. Yeah.
That should be the thumbnail. We should all like we should lean on each other.
Yes.
I'm already on your sitting. I think I'm having
on
you.
You were wearing, I was wearing your
Like-
robe earlier and you had. Hmm. Anybody have any questions? Oh, I see.
There's a hand up now. Marilyn.
Go ahead, Marilyn.
Yeah, so it's not quite so simple for me. You know, I find this the question is, can you control? Well, yeah, I can't control absolutely, but I can certainly influence quite a bit. Can I control my perception? Yeah, I can look at my perception and say, that's a dumb perception. I can change that. I can look at the sankharas and say, this one's not working for me. Like, you say, why do we do this? We do it because it works. Right? We get the feedback that's positive. I find it very effective. What do you call that? Wholesome thinking? To think this is not wholesome. I feel like I'm doing that. Am I completely misguided?
No. I think it's really good to acknowledge that we feel like we have a fair bit of control, influence. We may feel that way. But then when we really start, and I know you know this, Marilyn, when we feel like I am doing it, I am making this happen, reality hits us in the face pretty fast, in my experience. It's like there's a lot of dukkha in the I am. I feel like the story of Chana is really a good example, because here's someone who's lived with the Buddha for decades and he is still not getting it because he's so full of his sense of self, so full of himself. And, to recognize, because, of the way he was being treated, that this just hurts. This isn't going anywhere. I can play with these conditions and I can create things and I can be proud of them, but it doesn't compare to that PT Pamoja, that inspiration that comes, and it doesn't compare to what it feels like to put down the sense of self, what a relief it is. So I'm sure that you experienced that, the dukkha in all these. It doesn't mean that we don't have any joy or enjoyment in life, in the material world, but we know that no matter what we put our trust in the material world, it's going to fail us. What do you think?
I think, yeah, I get all that. I think I get that, but it doesn't fail me all the time. It doesn't
Yes.
fail me all the time. Like,
Yeah, no, there's a foundational paradox at the base of Buddhism that we have to acknowledge. So you do have this foundational teaching on not self. It's one of the three characteristics, anicca, dukkha, and anatta, impermanence, unsatisfactoriness, not self. And you've got on page 31 of the chanting book, it's in everybody's chanting book, the 5 subjects for frequent recollection. Aging is normal. I haven't gone beyond aging. Sickness is normal. Death is normal. Separation is normal. And the 5th one is I am the owner of my karma, heir to my karma, born of my karma, related to my karma. Whatever I do for good or for ill, of that I will be the heir. So it is this radical responsibility based on a self. And there are first person pronouns in there. And there is a way to conceive of, some of our teachers talk about how, certainly with sila and samadhi, so with virtue, our practice of virtue and our practice of samadhi, we're basically taking anicca, dukkha, and anatta, the 3 characteristics, as far as they can go. We're stress testing impermanence when we meditate. How permanent can we make our happiness? How permanent can we make our meditation object? Can we know it literally every single mind moment? we're stress testing dukkha. Like, okay, we're actually in meditation, seeing how pleasant a peaceful mind can be. So we're stress testing dukkha when we experience this profound and reliable, and we're getting better and better at sukha when we sit down and we can just breathe 2 or 3 times and have this, upwelling of piti or, yeah, that's what concentration is. And stress testing self. Okay, is this really true? And then you go and basically the jhanas and beyond the jhanas, the higher jhanas it really feels like a self when you've got this, expansive, universal, boundless, infinite consciousness. That's like, it feels like super S, one would, it's like, that's infinite self, basically. But then you come out of that and you realize this too is impermanent. This too is conditioned. And so you've stress tested all of these. Actually, that's not the deathless. This isn't truly foundational. I don't have total control. Yeah.
Can I jump in as well? This is fun. Who asked that question, by the way?
That's Marilyn.
Well done, Marilyn. It feels like it's also you're circling around the issue of free will. Like where does volition come in? And I'd say like on one level, I think the Buddha was just it was a very practical teaching. Like right effort rarely has that raw sense of self. Every now and again, it's there, like I'm not drinking, I'm not doing it, or like there's a place for a moment of conceiving of I'm a moral person and I'm not going to do this. But so often, right effort is more this place that it comes from something much deeper. Um, and I think we can just take, what we're speaking to, I think, with the practical element is just like that flavor again and again reiterated creates a really wholesome path and diligent effortlessness most of the time. But if you, like you said, like at the same time, the Buddha talked about his teaching as a viryavada, a teaching of effort. And then you wonder, okay, if all these things are conditions, where does our own volition come in? Like, where do we change the course towards wholesome and away from unwholesome? And for me, when people search for like where that answer to the free will question, I think there's a lot of wisdom in what the Buddha put aside as a question to be put aside. The human logical mind can only understand so much. Just you think of quantum theory, like is light a particle or a wave? It makes no sense. Like there's experiments you can do where it's both. And in the end, I think the question might be wrong. It's sort of asking, are we a stick in a wave or a fish in a wave? But what if it's all wave, like what if it's all water or what if it's just something else? And yet sometimes I do play with the idea that maybe when knowing knows itself, when there's mindfulness and heedfulness, it short circuits conditionality and there's a moment for some pivoting of something. But that's just me playing with words. And I think I don't trust that. And I think the Buddha would say like trying to drill down too deep into like where in the aggregates is free will hidden, just as a useless, we reach an asymptote. Human logic is a subset of the universe. The idea that a subset of the universe could understand the universe is silly. But I do think we all can know that flavor of selfing and like aligning with Dharma at a deeper level. So anyways, I've thought about this a lot too. That's a really good question.
I mean, I think you're really hitting on how we need to use reasoning, we need to learn the teachings, we need to explore and observe, and then it only takes us so far. And, when we allow our mind to go blank, there's a tremendous amount of humility in there. When we're actually giving up whatever modicum of free will and control we have, there's this humility, and when that happens, it's such a relief. And it's like then what can happen is there's a space that opens where we can realize, or insight can arise, where you come to know something that just is not possible to know through this thinking and trying and efforting and doing and believing. it's just other than that. And I think that's the causes and conditions for that, we put them in. It's like there is our own effort and pointing in the right direction, picking up these. I like the way Ajahn Sumedho talks about what the Buddha says. These are directional signs. They're not absolutes that we're supposed to take on board as our belief system. But we follow these directional signs. And then we come to a point where we're on a road we've never known before. And the mind, it's like you were saying, Ajahn, you know, it's like, how would we know how to think that up? We can't think that up. It's something different.
Do you?
No, I had no coffee. There's no coffee. Sorry.
There was one thing, and you may have heard this, but Longta Mahabua, did you meet him before he passed?
Yes.
You did. Okay.
Yeah.
That's impressive. I didn't meet him, but
Yeah.
I don't know if you've heard this teaching, but he's got one that he says that it's okay and it makes sense to think in terms of self when you're talking about sila, morality, and samadhi, concentration, which is totally my experience. I mean, if like you're overcoming an addiction on the level of virtue and morality, like you almost need to think in terms of negative self, like I am an alcoholic, you know, to really take it as seriously as needs to be taken for you to take the steps not to do the things which you really need to not do. So it's okay to think of self in terms of sila and samadhi, but the Buddha could go both ways. There are almost every page of these books are filled with first person pronouns, third person pronouns. The Buddha was talking to humans as humans talk to one another, and he can use not self. Not self is also true. So it's on the level of wisdom where you look at things in terms of not self, and having the cognitive flexibility to do both of those is, yeah, we like to think in black and white. Like, okay, the Buddha just said only not self, or he said, okay, he's talking about there is a self or whatever.
He spelled it out. He said there's these two levels that we speak on, the conventional level, which is the way this world is, and we've got these khandhas, and we have these relationships, and we have all these things in our life, and we operate with them, and yeah, the sila, what you said there reminded me of something Ajahn Sumedho said, that when he first came to live with Ajahn Chah asked him about his practice. What are you doing? And what he said was, well, I'm practicing letting go. And Ajahn Chah said, that's very good. But when it comes to the Vinaya, you need to cling to it. You can't just let go of the Vinaya. So it's like you have to like really hold it and learn it and do it and change your habits. And this is like those two levels. But the question is, I think an important point is that waking up is moving from this conditioned reality being our reality, all that we know, to the unconditioned, where we see this conventional reality as all these things arising and ceasing, impermanent. Maybe we see them as just energy. We see them as just they come together, they collect, they go apart again. And it's not like, oh, my book, my body. To really get that, to really be able to see that is like looking at things in a totally different way. And then once we can do that, sure, we can go back to seeing, you know, like these Kruba Ajahns who give people advice about everything, every kind of thing. They know how conventional reality works. They still brush their teeth. They still, you know, I mean, it's just like thinking about how do I let go? How do I operate in conventional reality in a wholesome way and let go of it enough to be able to see from that other perspective and really allow what arises in that perspective, which I'm convinced is the Brahma Viharas, to really guide one's life.
Just, I know you got questions, but just a little on that. It's just that those two levels and what you're talking about seem to roughly align with mundane and super mundane right view.
Mhm.
You know, super mundane is just the Four Noble Truths, everything arising and ceasing and such. And then mundane right view is all about, you know, there is the fruit and results of good and bad actions. There is mother and father. There is what is given. You know, it's all about karmic effects, cause and effects in the conditioned realm. And like you said, it's one of the central paradoxes, which I think every religious system has, or rich spiritual system. And it's like depth perception. You need both, and somehow both align. Like Longpo Cha, so agile, but also pristine in his sila, you know, and somehow those two things both just strengthen each other. So,
Well, you can't get to the ultimate reality perspective without that sila. It's crucial. And as we move in that direction, the sila gets really purified because you can't go the other way.
That's something because I thought that what that lady said was really interesting. I think if I understood what she was saying, she says she can control the five aggregates, that is perception. And I would say, unless you're Arahant or fairly further along the path, we generally can't control it in an ongoing basis. If you think about a slice of pie in your refrigerator and you think, you know, that's looking pretty good, you go around down the pathway and you can put it off. But how often do we end up going back and having that pie? So I don't think for most of us, you can control it in a permanent way. Maybe you can say, I'm not going to have the pie for a few minutes, but you quite often, most of us, I mean, I'm guilty, will go back and have that pie. So you cannot control the clinging aggregates, I guess.
And if you think about feeling, you really like it's just gonna come up. So those are some ways of looking. Philip?
Thank you. I have a question, but first, can I say again, I got PT Pamoja from seeing the four of you together. Just seeing venerables, the four of you teaching us bhikkhus and bhikkhunis together. We're just benefiting the lay people. It's so inspiring. I said this on Wednesday, but it's very powerful for me to have you as visiting teachers and again, just seeing venerables that are Kalyanamitas to each other and having the additional voices so inclusive, teaching the lay people for long-lasting happiness and benefit. So thank you. My question, hopefully it's something straightforward. This charioteer Chana, is that the same charioteer who, like in the stories of the Buddha before he left his palace, he was shown like, here's a sick person, here's a dying person. Like, is that the same charioteer?
Yep.
isn't he also supposed to be his cousin in the commentaries?
I think he's his cousin, and I think they're the same age. Yeah. As is the horse that he leaves.
According to the commentaries, still the same age, but yeah, but that would be the same, you know, from a traditional perspective, that would be the case. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Mira?
Good eyes.
Hi, everybody. Nice to see you all. Okay. So I really love the phrase that you said about really attuning, attuning to the Dhamma and attuning to the truth. And in my personal experience, there's a lot of time in my day or my week that I can do that. And then there's other times where I just absolutely cannot do that. And when I cannot do it, I'm not even in the ballpark. So it's like it feel, it really happens both ways. And I would love to hear more about like in those moments, practical practice instructions. Yeah, thank you. I really, I always like to hear instructions from Ayya Cittananda, so I hope she goes first, and I hope I'll bring some coffee tomorrow.
Not too late, Mayor. Sorry. You're gonna have to.
And I'd like to hear also from Ajahn Nisabho about, because when you spoke to it, my heart just resonated to how you were speaking to it. So it would be nice to hear more. But please, Ayya Cittananda, speak first.
So what do you do?
I think I make it kind of I like to play games. So sometimes making it a game is good. Where's the clinging? There's that kind of a thing. But yeah, I think different people are gonna resonate with different things to like what really interests you, what really bothers you. And then putting in effort when you do have time to sit down and think about it a little, like, okay, right now, this thing is bothering me. And then consciously bringing it to mind during the day when it's not bothering you. Kind of you can have a step back from the whatever uncomfortable feel. My UFO thing. Do you remember the UFO thing? Uncomfortable feeling observations, It's like if you intentionally practice with it when it's not up for you, sometimes that can help when it does come up and you catch it sooner and you're like, oh, there's that thing again. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Practical enough, maybe.
Right.
Try it. Try that.
Would you? No?
Oh, she wants you, Ajahn. I think you got it.
Good to see you, Mayar. And I will
Nice
also drink some of that coffee tomorrow. Yeah, I find it a really beautiful motion the Buddha makes. He talks about, when one recollects the Tathagata or the Dhamma or the Sangha, this is in the Mahanama Sutta, one's mind is not overcome with delusion, or hatred or greed. One's gets a sense of the Dhamma, gains joy connected with the Dhamma, gains sense of the goal. Of such a one, it is said among those who dwell out of tune, this one dwells in tune. Of those who dwell with their stingy, this one dwells with hands wide open.
Right.
And for me, it's just an important, the Buddha was so careful not to reify nibbana or what we step into, because he'd seen it's just a pitfall. Like he'd seen his teachers, Uddaka Ramaputta and Alara Kalama, get stuck. Because when you encounter these profound states, it's hard not to take them as the ultimate. So his method was the via negativa, just keep letting go until you touch something beyond, anicca, anatta, or anicca and dukkha. Maybe not anatta. That's still no wait. Anyways, something that's beyond an impermanent, beyond dukkha, beyond self, and yet I think for a lot of us, it's important to learn what that feels like in the moment, because it's not nothing that we step into and we let go of self. And for me, when the Buddha speaks about harmonizing, living in tune, it's just the most gentle but true way of conceiving of that. And how, I talked to a Catholic nun and asked how she'd stayed in robes for so long. And she said, after a while, the voice of God becomes the only thing that matters. And for me, I sense it as an attunement. And you really just begin to get aligned. And when I don't sense it, I think first it's just, first I usually will go into quiet for even 5 minutes and just close my eyes and let the mind settle. And often that's enough of a resonating chamber, you can hear it again. But another thing I'll do is often it's because you're listening in the wrong way. We get so stuck in the third and fourth noble truth. We love it when things are good and when we know the path. Where we have trouble realizing is when things shift, like after a retreat or into the first noble truth of dukkha. And that requires a real reorientation of the heart to hear the proper tune again. And the tune of that is like understanding dukkha. And it's just a totally different motion of the heart of like, okay, I'm in my first noble truth day today, and I'm just going to be here with this. And and humble myself. This is not a transcendent day. This is a humbling day. And then you hear the note again, but it requires tuning your ears differently. And the final thing I'll say is this is, I think, why the Buddha said patient endurance is the supreme quality, because the note becomes more and more subtle. And there's a T.S. Eliot quote where he said, wait without hope, because hope would be hope for the wrong thing. Wait without love, because love would be love of the wrong thing. There is still faith, but the faith and the hope and the love are all in the waiting. The faith and the hope and the love are all in the waiting. And it's just like you have to be willing to hold still enough through the moments when you don't hear the song and not act. Just don't act from the craving. Just hold still long enough that like you can hear it again, and it will come, but it might be more subtle. So that's what I'd say. Patient endurance is really, really helpful. Remembering that suffering is part of the path, and then also just taking a time out and running away and sitting for a little bit. So
Thank you.
I think that this is so important, this willingness to stop. Because a lot of times when we're not even in the ballpark, we're in this intense situation and we feel like we have to act or we have to respond. And if we can just remind ourselves that, no, I can stop and I can take myself away for that 5 minutes or whatever it is, I think that is so, so important. If we start to really get that everything is impermanent, we don't put so much emphasis on it anymore. And whatever the conversation is, whatever's going on with somebody else, whatever's coming up in our own heart and these feelings and whatever, we don't have to be so concerned about it. We can stop, pull away, wait to hear the attunement. I love that way of thinking about it, the voice of God or the voice of the Dhamma, to feel it again. And then to know that if we hear that again, if we attune, whatever we do is going to be so much better. And 9 times out of 10, walking away from a heated situation is going to be better anyway, no matter what, whether we hear it or not. If we could just do that much first. And then what Ayya Cittananda said is super helpful, because that gives us deeper insight into what it is what are those situations? What are those causes and conditions that cause us to just lose it?
Yeah.
And how do we work with that offline? I think that's, yeah.
I feel like in this moment, we're like in the sutta, it's like alive in real time, where the 3 of you haven't spoken yet. But so the 3 of you so far, but the 4 of you in general are acting as Ananda acted in that sutta. And like I'm feeling that in-person and live enactment of it right now. And that adds the sweetness, but also the fun factor to it. So
which one of us is Chana?
Shana 1, Shana 2, Shana 3, Shana 4.
I guess in the moment I was just Chana.
Shana, that's right. We were Ananda 1, Ananda 2.
Thank you.
Someone else has their hand up.
Amy did,
Oh.
but she lowered it. Do you still want to ask something, Amy?
No, Mayor's question and those answers really was exactly right. Thank you.
Did you want to join in on any of that?
No, just to say, I mean, I definitely feel the dukkha, and sometimes you just, I want to be mindful and I want to be a good monk, or you want to be a good Buddhist, and it's just the mind is not cooperating and the world around you is not cooperating. And honestly, like forgiveness is like, okay, I'm not the best person all the time and my mind is not doing what I want it to. And okay, forgiveness in this moment, that's metta, and that is spacious, and that is real practice. And it's like, okay, I just forgive myself because, I mean, yeah, this is practice, and this is something I can do. It's like, I really do. I don't want the best for me, so I forgive me.
I like it.
Excellent addition. Thank you.
Yeah.
Ajahn, Kovilo and I have a strategy too, where when either one of us is like feeling like we're not hearing the note and we're just kind of weird, we'll just go, I suck right now. I'm really sucking right now. it's just this way. It's like, said with this twinkle in the eye, but it's just total humility and owning it. And it's pretty helpful when,
I think it takes the pressure off.
yeah, it's like, yeah.
This is where it is. So this conversation kind of is going to continue tomorrow morning at 9. We're planning to talk, the title is going to be, there's nothing to, what did I say? There's nothing to accomplish. There's nothing to accomplish. And that's kind of like, I think it's going to be a follow on this kind of thing. And yeah, we are kind of mirror images and stuff.
Yeah, even on the screen, it's like you have mirrors right here.
Yeah. The other perfectionistic one is right over here. Maybe.
I'll look in the mirror. Is it? Or I'll fix my set.
Goodness forgiveness. So
Anmayanga bina pachawekana patang banamase.
Charan Dhammo Vicharan Anatito. I am of the nature to age. I have not gone beyond aging. Vayadi Dhammo Mi Vayadi Anatito. I am of the nature to sicken. I have not gone beyond sickness. Marana Dhammo Mi Marana Nanatito. I am of the nature to die. I have not gone beyond dying. Sabe me be mana be nada awo vina bhavo. All that is mine, beloved and pleasing, will become otherwise, will become separated from me. Kamma sakami kamma dayado kamma yoni kamma bandhu kamma patisarano yang kammam karisami kalayanam va papakam va tasadayado bhavisami. I am the owner of my karma, and heir to my karma, born of my karma, related to my karma, abide supported by my karma. Whatever karma I shall do, for good or for ill, of that I will be the heir. Evam name yadinam kitabam. Thus we should frequently recollect.
closing on page, I guess 20. Let me just pull this out. You're complete. Will you leave? You okay with that?
Blessed One, I render homage to the Buddha, the Blessed One.
The teachings
So completely explained by him, I bow to the Dhamma.
the Blessed One's disciples
Who have practiced well, I bow to the Sangha.
Yeah. Thank you for